Hello and welcome. I'm Carol DeChaine, your intuitive spiritual guide for practical matters and Marconic multidimensional energy teacher and practitioner. This whole month is about forgiveness. And forgiveness is a little tricky sucker because sometimes it's easy to do and sometimes we go, never in a million years am I going to forgive that person or that situation. It's not what I want. I am never going to forgive them. Well, as I've spoken about already, self-forgiveness is there. I've talked about people that seem impossible to forgive. And this week we're talking about forgiving the people closest to us, our relatives. Because sometimes parents, you can't forgive your parent for doing something horrible and they end up dying and we never really come to terms with it. We have siblings that we're never talking to. I know someone who's not talking to any of his siblings or his children, and he wonders why his children won't talk to him. There are things that happen, all the way through that we need to be aware of. What is it? And sometimes when you're looking to forgive, you're going, I don't want to forget that person. They did this wrong for me. They were horrible. And as I said before, it happens. Sometimes human beings do things that don't seem forgivable. Sometimes we do things that aren't forgivable to other people. It just is. But you need to step back and go, all right. Something's going on because I need to talk to some of these people. And if everybody isn't talking to you, it's a hint that maybe there's something going on and maybe it's not the other people. Maybe it's something that you need to look deeper into yourself over. And I don't know what that is because only you know. Everybody is different. But let me tell you that relatives specifically are the ones that you get to a certain point. Sometimes you have to put boundaries up. You need to say, I won't accept you talking to me this way. And that's fine. And sometimes we need to cut them out of our lives. Maybe it isn't healthy. And maybe you need to say, no, I'm not going to be there. But if you're carrying something around with you that's going, I want to be part of these people's lives, I just can't deal with them. Oh, cranky Aunt Sue, who always talks about her complaints about everything under the sun. Then I have this person always talking about all of the, you know, telling me maybe you should be married. Why aren't you married? And when are you going to, how come you're so old? And they compare you to your sister or your brother or something. There's all these different people that you might get together in maybe a family gathering that you're going, oh my God, I got people I don't like I'm around. People that have said things that have bothered you, that stick with you, that you just don't want to be around these people. So you have options. And I've had a whole podcast on how to deal with difficult people. That's out there. It's called Living Your Limitless Life. That's the name of the podcast. But it's about how to deal with difficult people. And relatives are an interesting sort because if you need to be around them, you need to decide, do I set a boundary? Do I only talk to this person for a certain amount of time? And if they bother me, then I give myself the gift of stepping back, going to the bathroom, or helping in the kitchen, or doing something. Oh, there's Aunt Frida. I need to talk to her. I'll be back. I'll talk to you later. What do? Find a way to have backups so that if you have someone that isn't comfortable around you, that you find a way to escape them. But you can still be at the family gathering without really dreading going because you can't stand this one particular relative. Figure out what it is that bothers you about that person. Maybe it's not just that they talk about their complaints all the time. Maybe there's something underneath that you need to forgive. Or maybe there's something underneath that you need to understand. Maybe they're lonely. Maybe they don't talk to anybody, and the only way anybody will listen is when they complain, because that's when people pay attention to them. So maybe you need to forgive them for focusing on something that isn't all that wonderful for you. Focus on forgiving them for maybe telling you that you should get married. Why aren't you married? Why don't you have kids? Maybe they're one of those types. What's the matter with you? Your brother is already married with 3 kids. Your sister's already got 5 kids. What's the matter with you? Are you gay? It's like, what's the matter with that? But if I am, it's like, even if you are, you could have kids. It's like these relatives, they know how to hit you below the belt sometimes. And sometimes you just don't want to go there. You don't want to be someone who's going there because you have to, or avoiding the relatives because you don't want you missing everybody else because of 1 or 2 of them. So realize that you can do something for yourself when it comes to forgive who they are that bothers you. Forgive yourself for any of those buttons that they're pushing, going, what is that that's bugging me? Because maybe they push that button and maybe you feel bad that you're not married, and maybe you feel bad that you don't have kids if that's what they're bugging you about. And you're going, all right, so this is something that's bothering me. And they're pointing it out, and they don't need to point it out. Okay, so let me forgive myself for being in a position that I don't like, that I'm not doing anything about, if I need to. And then let me forgive them for poking at that hot button that's bugging me. Because maybe that's what you need to do. But then look at those relatives that you have totally cut off as well. Maybe it's a parent, a father who abandoned the family, a mother who maybe she did the same thing, or maybe she was abusive, or whatever it might be, and somebody that you disconnected from 100%. How do you feel about that relative? Because a lot of times, when that parent dies, the person feels like, I never got a chance to either tell them how I felt, which means maybe yell at them, let all of that angst out, or to work it out, to get to know them, to see who they really were 20, 30 years later. So what do you feel? It's important about you. Forget about them right now. What do you feel about this unforgiveness, about not talking to somebody in your family? Do you feel like I talk to them if they talk to me, but they won't talk to me? Maybe you need to forgive them for that. Forgive them for not being willing to talk to you. Forgive yourself for holding any kind of grudge or for whatever they think you did. Say, I forgive myself. I don't know what I even did to this person. I love myself. Maybe they're not supposed to be in my life. But if you want them to be in your life, maybe you need to force the issue to say, I really need to talk to you. I know that we don't get along, or I know we don't talk, but I found you. I want to see who you are and why you did certain things that you did. I don't need to confront you. I just need to know. Please tell me what's going on. And if it's somebody who abandoned you as when you were young, a lot of times you need that, just that security of knowing it wasn't you. It wasn't the fact that there was a small child involved and they left and you think it was your fault, even though you might know better up here. Here, you're still thinking it's my fault, and it's impacted you through your whole life. And maybe they had a drinking issue and they left, or a drug issue and had nothing to do with you, but they left because they needed to. I know of one person who had PTSD so bad, he left his family and he went on the streets and became a street person for years until somebody reached out and said, I found you. I can't believe I found you. What's the matter? Why? What's going on? Why did you leave the family? And he was like saying, I thought I was still in Vietnam. I think it was the Vietnam War for that person. And that I kept wanting to pull guns out and shoot people. I was afraid I'd hurt you. So I had to leave. And the person was like, oh my God. And you couldn't get help. He said, I was afraid that I would do it. So rather than getting help, I left. And then things just deteriorated and whatever happened, happened. But that person, that little child inside of that adult male said, I feel so much better knowing it wasn't my fault. And I knew it, but I didn't know it. And it still bugged me. And and the father was on his way out the door and he made his peace with him. He found out it's not me, it's you, basically. And it was true. So whatever you need to do for you, and not even worrying about what the other person needs right now, what do you need? Especially if you're not talking to somebody. What do you need? Know that within yourself, that if there's an issue, don't be afraid to forgive yourself first before you even talk to the other person. Forgive yourself for any situation you might have caused, any maybe making it worse that may have happened because you didn't know what to say and you just made it worse and you felt angry and so you said things. Forgive yourself, because whether it was on purpose, whether it was planned to say nasty things to the person, or whether you just needed to let it out at the time, you're through it now. Let it go. Love yourself. Allow yourself to forgive yourself, and then focus on that other person. See if you need to connect with them for you, for whatever reason. because you'll be so much happier if you've had a chance to reach out and see what the kind of reaction is before that other person passes away. And maybe there's nothing you can do. And you go, okay, the wall that's there needs to be there because I don't want that person in my life. But once you know that, then you can find peace. It's putting the wall up without the peace, putting the wall up in anger, putting the wall up in fear, in whatever is there that you put up that wall to separate yourself from somebody. Those are the things you want to look at. If you put it up and say, it's okay, I don't have anger for this person anymore, but they don't need to be in my life. I still don't want them there. But I'm glad I reached out. I'm glad I feel better because that's what I needed to do for me. Then you'll have more peace. You'll have more joy. And this forgiveness thing is just for you anyway. It really is. If it helps other people along the way, great. But it's really for you. Because the person that you need to forgive may or may not need that forgiveness. But you do. You need to allow yourself to find the peace that that forgiveness can bring. And the people that you live with, who aren't people you need to forgive, are going to find that you're easier to get along with. You're more peaceful, you're more loving, you're more something. And they're going to go, something changed. What did you do? And they may not be so obvious in the knowing, but things are going to shift a little bit. Whenever you forgive somebody that you're holding on to tight and it's making your life kind of miserable, you're going to change because you're not going to be holding on to that anymore. So just know that you have the power to make that choice. You can make the choice to connect with somebody in your relatives that you've totally cut off, or to just forgive yourself and forgive them even, and leave the wall in place. But the wall will look different. The wall will be, if you want to change, I'm open to it, rather than don't dare come near me. And if that is the feeling that's there, they may step across that line and say, I really need to talk to you in a different way, in a way that says, I really need to be forgiven. I'm really sorry that something happened. Or I just need to talk to you about whatever it is. Would you be open to that? Because I'd love to open communication again. And if you can come at it with an open heart, even though the wall is still there of you're not going to be treating me poorly, but if you want to step through that line of the wall, there's still a barrier of, or I should say a boundary that says, you can't treat me badly, but I will communicate with you. And that feeling is different. And it's something that can shift and change your life when you do that, because you'll be able to find contentment and peace with someone that maybe you never even were willing to talk to before, if you're willing to take those steps. Thank you for joining me here today. And always, if you like what you hear, please do subscribe to my YouTube videos. They come out twice a week. If you click the bell notification, you'll get something on Sunday saying that the Joy Corner has been sent out, which is a I am affirmation for you, hopefully a very powerful one. And if you don't find that one helpful, there are years of other ones you can look back on. And also a Wednesday video that helps you connect more to that joyful life you want to have. There's also, of course, if you want to hear more, my podcast, which I mentioned, Living Your Limitless Life, which you can find on most podcast channels. And there's also a link directly to the website that hosts my podcast, where you can get all of them in a row. And you can also find out more about Marconics, multidimensional ascension energy, and other things if you want to work with me, all at my website, which is connecttojoy.com, also below this video. Until next week, please know that you are already enough to have that joyful, limitless life that you desire.